God placed it on my heart, and I must believe. Even up in I must see. He was there for me through everything I needed. Even them times when I felt defeated. Look back on everything I've overcome, and I'm steady making my way to one. When it's said and done, the truth that you'll know. It's a lot going on in this world today. Everybody needs to know that Jesus saves. Tired of religion, tired of division. Let's get back to the Great Commission. Let's talk about it on the Tyra Hill Show. I wanna talk about it on the Tyra Hill Show. If you're dealing with it, then we talk about it. Tyra, if you're dealing with it, then we talking about it. If you're dealing with it, let's talk about it. Tyra Hill Show. What's up, everybody? Hello, 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 hello. And if this is your first time joining me, I am Tyra Hill, the leading lady of the Tyra Hill Show. And today's show is going to be off the chain. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Thank you for tuning in. I'm trying to get comfortable because I'm about to have a serious conversation, right? So I have to be comfortable, but welcome, 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 welcome. Thank you for taking time out of your busy schedule to join me for a much needed conversation, to join me during your lunch break, to join me. Thank you for just tuning in and just chiming in. I truly, truly, truly appreciate you. So today, I called all of us together because we need to have a serious conversation. There is so much going on within the Black community. And I like to say it's the state of Black community, right? And so for me, I'm just tired of seeing the oppression. I'm tired of seeing the devastation. I'm tired of seeing the murder. I'm tired of seeing the trauma. I'm tired of just seeing the mental illness issues that we see every day, but no one is talking about. So I wanted to have a heart to heart. If you know me, you know I'm an advocate for mental illness. Today is actually Thursday. Today is my therapy day. And I decided to take my therapy session public and just break the stigma. We are in Mental Health Awareness Month. This is Mental Health Awareness Month. And we're not talking about it. No one is talking about it. And there's a stigma attached to talking about it. So it's just a lot going on. It's a lot going on. I'm not going to be politically correct today. We're going to talk about it. If I'm going to have a conversation, it's going to be transparent and real, right? And so for me, I guess I'm just sick and tired of getting sick and tired. You know, I'm from Flint, Michigan. If you do not know, there is a lot of murders going on in Flint, Michigan. I live on the East Coast. There has been 105 murders in Baltimore, Maryland, as of Monday, the Monday that just passed. And I just kind of felt a need, an urgency to have a conversation that other people don't really want to talk about. And so a lot of times I get asked, you know, what made you go to therapy? Let me be extremely clear. I am the product of the streets. I was raised in church, but I am the product of the streets. And so my answer is always the same when I'm asked, what made you start therapy? I was just tired of being tired and sick. I was sick and tired of allowing my trauma to show up in my everyday life, right? And so I was tired of being broken. I was tired of being angry. I was tired of being bitter. I was just a hot mess. And so when you start birthing children and you start seeing yourself and your children, and then you start having grandchildren, and you have that aha moment, you be like, well, damn, something got to change. And so I decided to do the work. So today, y'all, get ready, get ready, get ready, because this conversation is going to be raw. It's going to be real. It's going to be transparent. This conversation today is not for children. If your children are around, please put in your headphones, your earpod pods, your whatever, because we're going to have grown-up conversation. Because in order for us to be able to take back our streets, it has to begin with the parents and the grandparents, and then we reach our children. So, ladies and gentlemen, I welcome none other than my therapist, Tracy Harris. Tracy.
Hello, hello, hello.
Hey, Queen.
How are you?
I'm good. I ain't got my tissue today, and let me say this. I usually do therapy without makeup. But since today was a production, she thought she would get it together and put on a little bit for you guys. But I'm usually crying. I'm usually going through everything that I need to go through in order to shed what I need to shed so that I can be free. So, Tracy, what is trauma? Let's talk about trauma.
So trauma looks different for many different people. It never really looks the same. And what I like to say about trauma is something that happens to us it's a significant event that happens to us. It can be in childhood, it can be in adulthood, it can be anything significant that happens to us that we internalize it, that we don't talk about, that brings up emotions or any type of reaction. So what I like to think is just trauma is almost like a wound to the brain, where significant events has happened, where a significant event has happened that has caused a wound to the brain, that if left open, it never heals. And it will constantly always put us in a state of feeling overwhelmed. It can put us in a state of always being angry. It can put us in a state of acting out. I can never say what is traumatic to someone, because a car accident can be traumatic to someone. The death can be traumatic to someone. So it's anything that we take in and we internalize, and therefore it then plays on us and comes out and we act out on it. So that's basically what trauma. So there's a lot of different traumas that happen to people, that can happen in childhood, that can happen in adulthood, rape, molestation, being physically abused, like I say, car accidents, seeing someone die, witnessing someone else being hurt, looks like trauma. So there's all different types of trauma.
Well, see, Tracy, and that's why it was so important for me to begin my journey, because within the 45 years that God has allowed for me to be on this earth, I've experienced some show enough trauma, right? And so for me, I knew, when you know that you can say, I know I'm gifted, I know I have talents, but it's so hard to get to those things when you have so much bullshit on the good. You get what I'm saying?
Yes.
And so for me, I am a domestic abuse survivor. I am a molestation survivor.
Yes.
I am a divorcee. I was a teenage mom. I am a recovering addict. And so you begin to just look at all of that, and at some point, you just got to be sick and tired of just sitting in all of that mess.
Yes.
And so for me, like I said, I'm from the streets. I'm from the hood. I done seen people murder. You know what I'm saying? I done been a part of the crack pandemic. And so just things just attach itself to you, or you begin to attach yourself to things, and before you know it, it becomes your everyday mechanism, and then your mind just be all jacked up.
Right.
There's nothing worse than a bitter, broken, angry person.
Yes.
Who don't know why, or who won't address why they're so bitter, why they're so broken, why they're so angry. And I always tell women, especially, because you know how I feel about the queens. I've done the right things with the wrong man. I know how that can turn your heart. You know what I'm saying? I know what emotional abuse does. I know what abuse does. I know what verbal abuse does. You get what I'm saying?
Yes.
And so I just think sometimes within our community, there is such a big stigma to where we're not talking about it.
Mm-hmm.
And it becomes generational. So, in other words, I'm going to let somebody abuse me because I saw my mama get abused.
Right.
My mama saw her mama get abused. You get what I'm saying? Who probably saw her mother get abused.
Right.
And so there's a generational
trauma. Right.
It becomes generational trauma.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Passed down.
Yeah.
And I think the one thing that's also important that when we talk about trauma, which I see a lot of people do, especially when I do different group work or workshops or things like that, is that a lot of people don't understand that what they have went through was a traumatic event. Mm-hmm. So they don't know how that event is really affecting them, or they try to minimize their trauma. Mm-hmm. And I see that a lot where people will try to minimize. Oh, it wasn't that bad. It didn't really hurt me. I'm okay. I've moved on. Things and that, not actually have dealing with what has happened, the effects of it, the symptoms that they're dealing with. Mm-hmm. So if you don't deal with it, you're going to continue to act out. You're going to continue to do the things that you're doing until you start saying, you know what, this really is bothering me. I'm really having this very, very strong emotional response every time I see the color red, or every time I smell a certain food. And I need to really deal with what is going on as to why, when all these things, when I start being triggered, I start acting out this way. And that's what I see a lot of, is people trying to minimize or not understanding that what they have went through has been a traumatic event.
Well, how do we not only acknowledge, Tracy, but how do we give our trauma a name? See, for me, and I'm going to be honest with you, I probably didn't deem myself a domestic violence survivor probably until years later. Or not just a survivor, a domestic abuse victim. You get what I'm saying? I had to be a victim before I could understand I was a survivor. But I couldn't give it a name. It was embarrassing. It was devastating. It damn near killed me, And so I just think that the shame, it come from. Can we have a real conversation, Tracy? We come from a generation of women who would tell you, some of them, who would tell you, oh, it could be worse.
Yes.
And then that's just one, because I came to have a real conversation today. On the flip side of that, Tracy, you have religious people telling you, well, God don't believe in divorce.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Oh, yeah, most definitely.
So how can we start giving our trauma a name? How can we address it? How can we, what would be the first step? Because you just said it's hard for us to be able to identify.
I think the first step is we have to really understand what is mental health. Especially in the Black community. I think that is the first thing that we have to do. I think that there are a lot of people that are trying to do the work, especially just like you are, just trying to get that thing out. But mental health, whenever I bring up something, and this is because, and let me just say this, if most people in our family has had someone, and we'll go back to yesteryear, to the older years, especially our older people, if someone acted out in the family and we didn't understand what it was, what was the first word that we used? They're crazy. Oh, that's Uncle so-and-so. They're crazy. Not really understanding that Uncle so-and-so was bipolar, or Uncle so-and-so might have been schizophrenic, or maybe something happened that Uncle so-and-so went through something when he was younger, and he's at a cookout and something, maybe a bell rung, and now he's triggered and now he's acting out. Not understanding all. The first thing that we say is that someone is crazy. Mental health in the Black community has always been equated to, if you have a mental health issue, you're crazy.
Mm-hmm.
I hate that word because
Mm-hmm.
the truth of it is that's not what mental health is.
Right.
Mental health, I put it on the same line as it is physical health. Mental health is simply me taking care of myself mentally, me going to talk to someone and saying, hey, look, I'm dealing with a lot of anxiety. I'm sad all the time. Why am I sad all the time? I need to
Mm-hmm.
take care of this because this is stopping me from being able to do the things that I need, from being able to have the relationships I want, to be able to move forward. I got to deal with it. Mental health does not mean you're crazy. So one, we have to stop thinking that that's what mental health means. We have to have a real conversation about what it is and help people to understand that it's okay to be sad. It's okay to be nervous about something. But when you start feeling it all the time, when you can't get out the bed with something, maybe you need to go talk to someone so that they can help you through that. I think that is the one thing to help people first to understand mental health and then to understand, then to put a name to what's going on with them. Because then when you walk into the office with a professional and they start doing your pathology and they start talking to you and they start talking about things that happen in the family and things that, then we start pulling things out and we're able to put things and we're kind of, we're taking that baggage that you're coming with and we're kind of going through and we're sorting it and we're putting it in piles and we'll be like, we need to deal with some of this stuff.
Mm-hmm.
We need to deal with the fact that you were abandoned by your father
Mm-hmm.
and how that affects the relationships you have with men.
Mm-hmm.
Or
And that's
you are.
important as a
Mm-hmm,
as a woman
mm-hmm,
now, but a girl. I became a mother before I became a woman.
mm-hmm,
You see what I'm saying? And I was a daddy's daughter,
mm-hmm,
right?
mm-hmm.
And so for me, and I said I was because that healing has taken place with me and my father because I'm doing the work. You just
Right,
can't be mad all your damn life. At some
right.
point, you just gonna have to heal,
Yeah,
so you can grow and evolve. But you're absolutely right when you talk about those things. Like me being a daddyless daughter showed up in different areas of my life.
mm-hmm,
And me being, and when people ask me what made you start therapy, I say to them, my trauma started showing up in every area of my life. And that was not cool with me,
right.
and I would react instead of think. I would respond instead of think. And so for me, Tracy, it was some accountability. I just didn't want to be in my 30s or in my 40s a hot damn mess.
Right.
I didn't want to be bitter. I didn't want to be broken. I didn't want to blame my mama for the things that she didn't do that I thought that she did. And we've had conversations about my relationship with my mother. You know what I'm saying? And I love my mom. However, it was things that I had to work through to understand why she did some of the things that she did, not realizing that you over here feeling some type of way and you don't even know her story. So
Yep.
I had to be a grown ass woman and show up since, we always say, well, I'm grown. I'm grown. I had to be a grown ass woman and have a grown ass woman conversation with my mother and understand and get to know her story.
Yes.
And then I think I just kind of let stuff go after I understood.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
And so, and since I'm doing a show and I'm talking about transparency, for those of you that don't know, my father was married when my mother got pregnant with me. So for years, I was angry with my mom because I felt like she should have knew better. I felt like she brought me here in this world, and because I came, people hated me, right? And so I took that frustration. I took their energy out on my mother. You see what I'm saying? And so at
Mm-hmm.
some point, I had to be like, Mom, what's up? And so I think I was probably 40 years old when I found out that my mother met my father at 16. And he was 30 something.
Mm-hmm.
So she was a victim.
Mm-hmm.
She was a victim. And so when I understood that, I I let go of all of the resentment and the anger, and we were able to reconcile our once broken relationship. Now, understand this, because people think when you have issues or childhood issues, that gives you a right to not have a relationship with your parents, right?
Mm-hmm.
I still loved my mother. I still loved my father. However, it was dysfunctional.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Right. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
It was dysfunctional because I really couldn't love them the right way, because at the time I was trying to figure out how to love myself. And that's a whole nother conversation. And I get this all the time. Well, how did you and your dad get back to it? I could not continue to look in the mirror and hate my father, who is half of me, and then accept all of me and learn to love me.
Right.
And so, being a woman who has experienced so much, you just begin to categorize things. You begin to compartmentalize things. Like, okay, I got to deal with this right now. I'll deal with this later. I can't deal with this right now. It was like one chapter at a time. I began to unravel things, and I just knocked down the whole, just tear down the whole building. Let me just put one brick back up at a time.
Right.
It wasn't because I suffer from anxiety too. So I had to be wise when addressing these issues, or the shit would have ran me crazy, Tracy.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And we would have went every week, because I do therapy every week. We would have went from every week to every day.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
During my therapy sessions, y'all, Tracy just be looking at me.
Well, I think there's something very important that you said that I think is that we kind of go back is kind of like tearing down everything and then building it back up one brick at a time. And what I try to tell people that come in is that, that's kind of what we're doing. We're kind of unlearning these really bad things. And now we have to relearn them. Do you know how hard that is? Do you know how hard it is to unlearn something that you have been participating in or that you've known for almost 40, 50 years, and to have to say, I have to unlearn this? So I'll give you an example. If you were in relationships where, let's say love, where love always came with harsh words or a beating or something, that you start equating hurt with love. So if you love me, then you hurt me, right? So now we have to unlearn that love is not supposed to hurt. So now we have to go back and we have to now we have to go back, and together you have to learn what is the real meaning of love and what is this supposed to look like, and it's not supposed to hurt. I've had people say to me, my mother told me that only the way that you know someone loves you is if they hurt you.
I'm
like,
wow. He love you if he don't beat you.
He don't love you if he don't hurt
you. That's like the stupidest shit I've ever heard.
But that's real.
Like, and it is, because
yes,
I don't feel that way. But coming from a woman who is a survivor, that's like the most illest shit I've ever heard before in my life. Because love, and if we want to be politically or biblically correct, love is patient, love is kind. Yes. You get what I'm saying? Love, and when we say love doesn't hurt, I will say this, because I done been loved enough to know that sometimes love does hurt. You know what I'm saying? Your heart might get broken, your feelings.
Oh yeah, hurt, of course, right,
but
right,
not
right,
physically. You get what
not
I'm saying?
physically, right.
And so I think when we tell people things like he don't love you unless he hits you, or love doesn't hurt, we stop people from understanding false precepts. Like, I just can't, for the life of me, Tracy, and I got to put down my cue cards to say this. For the life of me, I know women who are in, good example, Let's have a conversation. I said we're going to have a real raw conversation. Not too long ago, I was verbally assaulted, and a male tried to physically assault me and fight me. And I know his wife, and his wife stood right there and said nothing. And because I am a domestic abuse survivor, not only did I recognize who he was, it triggered something in me. It did something to me.
Most definitely.
To the point to where I think I couldn't function for a couple of days. And you and I had to have a conversation about that. Because I couldn't move past it. It triggered something up in me, and it triggered several things up in me. The first thing that it triggered up in me was the rage that my ex-husband had in his eyes and in his stance before he would physically attack me. The other thing it triggered up in me was who I used to be. And so I'm standing there and I'm wrestling, literally in my mind. I'm wrestling with two, because the first thing I could think as a domestic abuse survivor was, you better protect yourself. That was the first thing that came to my mind. The second thing I thought about, because it triggered who I used to be, which is street, was, oh, he about to get touched. You get what I'm saying? So instantly, I had to deal with all of those emotions. That emotion, the second emotion, and then the fact that his wife just stood there and didn't say nothing. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah, most definitely.
So go ahead, Tracy.
No, I'm listening. Go ahead.
I just felt like, had I not been where I am today, that it could have got real ugly.
Yes.
You get what I'm saying? And so I just, like, even when I was talking to you about the situation, I was speechless. I was more hurt than anything because I don't know him, never had a conversation with him. And the only thing I could think of is, where is this rage coming from? Where is this anger coming from? And when I say that I don't know him like that, we've never had a conversation. I don't know him like that. So I couldn't understand where that rage came from. But it was just really disheartening to watch the other women, especially his wife, stand there and just be like, and you know me, I'm like, oh yeah, he whooping your ass. This what your husband do? This what he do? Oh yeah, he whooping your ass. Because that's the point. And I know that we go through a lot, but, and I said this to you because everybody kept asking me, why didn't you call the police? And I said, I had to take that hit. I felt like at that time, I had to take that hit, because if the police would have came, and we know what they do to our men, and I am a mother, I am a grandmother of Black men. And I know what that encounter can be like. And so I felt like I had to take a hit. And plus other things was going on that I won't mention. But I felt like I had to take that hit. Why is it as Black women do we always feel like we have to protect?
Because that's what we've always done. I mean, I think that there is a thing in us that we are nurturers. We are the ones who are just like, you know what, it's okay, I'll take that. We've always have done that, and I think that that's something that we've seen from our grandmothers, our great grandmothers, or things like that. They've dealt with a lot. you know, and it was never a thing of you call someone or you do it, whatever happens, we keep it in here and we deal with it. And I think that that is what has happened. I think that, and now what we're starting to see is high levels of depression in Black women, high levels of anxiety within Black women, because we have been taught to just take it, to just deal with it. And that's what we do. It's okay. We don't always have a soft, as one of my colleagues always say, a soft place to land.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
We don't always have that. So we just have learned to just deal with very, very bad, inappropriate behavior.
And we talk about that because
Mm-hmm.
I am at a place where boundaries for me,
Yes.
in setting boundaries. And
And
so you just can't talk to me any kind of way. I don't care how you talk to her. You
yes.
just can't talk to me any kind of way.
And,
You just can't handle me any old kind of way. I don't
yes.
care how you handle her, but you can't handle me any kind of way. And I think the more boundaries I'm setting, the more, and you said you hate this word, the more crazier I'm seeming to people. You know, when you set boundaries, honey.
Oh yeah, well, people don't like boundaries.
What's she out?
Yeah, people, but this is the thing, and I'm glad you brought that up, because I don't understand, and I think, you know, because I've been doing this for so long, of course I have boundaries, believe me. But I think that when I see people come in and they're telling me stories, and I'm like, what was the boundary? What was the consequence? You know, and everybody's looking at me like, well, I can't, what do you mean? How do you, and then when I get, how do you set boundaries? This is real. How do you set boundaries? And I literally have to go through, how do we set boundaries with people?
Okay, well, good. Stop right there. How do you set a boundary?
I often say this, which I think is kind of like my thing. I request something of you, meaning I will say to you, and I'll use this, Tyra, I really would appreciate if you don't ever, let's say we have a conversation, you called me out my name. If we're ever in a conversation, you never called me out my name before. I don't appreciate that. That made me feel belittled and everything. And I do not want that to happen again when we have a conversation. Now, if you say, okay, I can do that for you, great. Then I hold you accountable for that. And if you say no, I'm still going to hold you accountable by setting a consequence. That's what boundaries and consequences. All boundaries is you requesting that people be respectful of you and your space.
That's fine.
That's all it is.
When I say, you ain't gonna talk to me like that.
Right, exactly.
Now you would have been more politically correct.
I did it more politically.
But with Tyra Hill is, who you talking to? Like, so in order to draw a boundary,
it's just simply saying to someone, you cannot. So however you want to do it, you can say however you want to frame it, but it is basically a request that
it's a request.
It's a request
with a consequence.
Followed up with a consequence. So if you then say to me, you know what? No, I'm not going to do that. Then the consequence is you no longer are allowed to talk to me. So now we're going to have to figure that out, because you don't know how to respect me.
Tracy.
So that we can have a conversation.
I have boundaries, and we're going to move on, but I got to say this about a boundary. And I'm going to give y'all examples, because y'all know I give y'all real life stories. I'm telling y'all, Tyra Hill done been through almost everything. So one year, I host Christmas every year before the pandemic. And so a relative came over, and I was upstairs putting one of my grandsons to sleep. And we have music time. I have a tambourine. And so I'm putting him upstairs to sleep, and I hear the tambourine. Now, he hear the tambourine. He don't want to go to sleep because he thinks it's music time. So I come out the room, and I was like, hey, can you put that down? You know, I'm trying to put the baby to sleep. This thing looked at me. In my house. It's like, what? Because I was upstairs. They was downstairs. T. I couldn't put him to sleep fast enough. Honey, I ran down the stairs so quick. They had to literally stop me because I was about to give her the business. However, the consequence was she could never come back, and she's never been back. And I've never invited her back.
Mm-hmm.
We have to start setting boundaries for people. Tracy, how do people go about finding the right therapist for them?
So
because we talk about therapy, we understand that mental health is not really offered within the African American communities. There's not like a lot of funding, a lot of therapists.
Right.
And a lot of times you try to get therapists, but they can't take no new patients because they booked them busy. Yeah. So how do you go? What would be some steps to finding the right therapist for you?
Well, this is what I would say for people who are looking for I think one, and I'm gonna say this because I do not think it's true. I know that in the African American community, most African Americans would like to have African American therapists. I do, but what I will say is that I have colleagues that are also from different races, from different cultures, that are just as strong or just as good as an African American therapist. And I get it because I think that sometimes you're like, you want to relate. You want to relate. You want to have that. You know what I'm saying? You want to get me. And I agree 100%. So I would say that first it's kind of like, what are you really I think you need to know. And I often say this. I love when some of my clients will say, I need someone that's going to hold me accountable. Then I'm going to be the therapist for you.
Right. Whoa. Let me get this disclaimer.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. You know what I'm saying? Like, if right. We can discuss, we can do that. But I'm going to be the therapist for you. I tell people all the time, I am a very particular taste. You have to be willing to come in, to sit with yourself, to look at yourself, to deal with those traumas, because I'm holding you accountable every step of the way. I'm holding you accountable for your behavior, how you act out, I'm holding you accountable because I believe in, and I think every therapist that do, so don't say, but this is the way, and I believe within change. I am here to help you on your journey. I want you to heal when this is done. I want to see changes, and you want to see those too. If I don't hold you some type of level of accountability, you're going to continue to do the same thing. So I'm not a therapist that every time you say something, I'm going to be like, okay, so how did that make you feel? You know what I'm saying? Sometimes you might say something to me and I'm going to be like, so why did you feel like that was appropriate in that situation?
Well,
you understand? You understand what I'm saying? So we're going to have the conversation.
There is accountability.
Yes.
With you, and you expect for us to do the work.
Yes.
And I remember, wow. It seems because we've been rocking for a while now. Right. So I feel like you done been in every area of my life. The marriage, should I stay? Should I go? Being a mom, my relationship with my son, grandparenting, and just being a woman. Like, it's so many different layers to womanhood.
Yes.
I think that I pulled you in on every area of my life because I'm serious about this healing journey. I'm serious about this thing. And so for me, I came in naked. I wanted to get to the good, the bad, and the ugly. It was necessary for me. Because I understood that if I didn't, Tracy, that I would just not amount to my full potential. Right. I know God has a lot in store for me. I know I'm gifted. But it's so hard to get there when you're in bondage emotionally, mentally, spiritually, physically. And then I often say, I catch feedback. A lot of, Christians get mad when I say this. Your pastor is not a therapist.
No, they're not. Right.
Because they bleed just like you. Not that your therapist doesn't, but it's some things that you just can't pray away.
It's not.
You're going to have to get tools.
You're going to have to get tools.
You're going to have to address it. Call that thing, like Auntie Ayala say, call that thing out by name. Dig it up. After you dig it up, look at that shit for what it is and figure out how to unravel yourself from that.
Yeah, and you know, and you, yes, and you bring her up, and I love it because I love Ayana. Ayana is not a therapist; she's a life coach. But I do, and there's some things I agree, some things I don't. But this is the one thing that I do like about her that I feel like really is like what we're starting to see now is that she believes in disrupting the pattern. And she tells you that straight out. Like, if you're going, so when people go to see her and they're upset with her because of the way she is making you uncomfortable, she's making you think, she's disrupting the way of you doing things. And people are so upset. I'm like, but you have to understand, have you not watched her? That's what she does. And she does it so well. She does it so well.
A lot of my patterns. And it's crazy because with me, and I don't think you know this about me, people think I'm confrontational. I'm really not. There's a difference in being confrontational and sticking up for yourself. I'll stick up for myself all day, but I'm not confrontational. But you've made me address some things in me that could be a little nasty. You get what I'm saying? Because I know I'm nice nasty. I'm just going to be honest with you. People don't want to tell the truth about themselves. But it's going to set you free. Tyra Hill can be real nice nasty. And it depends on you, on what you get from her. However, I'm working on that. Because now Tyra Hill is like, I don't give a fuck what you give me. Let me give you what I give. You know what I'm saying? Which is peace. Which is love. Which is light. You know, and so I think a lot of times, you know, and people say this all the time on social media. Y'all better leave her alone because Tyra crazy, you know that, well, you know, hey.
That word.
you know, because I remember in school, because I would fight you. You, your mom, your daddy, your grandmama, and whoever else came, the cousins, the aunties, whoever. But now that I'm older, I don't want to be out here like Tracy.
Well, yeah, and you know, and I think that this is the thing that was, and I think what you're learning is the difference between aggression, being aggressive, and being assertive. I want everyone to be assertive. And when I talk to people about that, people are like, being assertive. Well, they equate the two the same. I'm like, no, being assertive is standing up for yourself. I can stand up for myself and still take your feelings and things into consideration. I'm still going to say no. I'm still going to say no, but I can do it in a way where I'm still taking your feelings and your emotion, and I can still validate you in my no. Aggressiveness is just when you are just yelling, screaming, coming at them, being physical. I tell people, you get nothing from being aggressive. If you change that aggression, being aggressive to being assertive, watch how people will respond to you. They'll be able to take that no a little bit. They'll be able to take that no better. Okay, well, she said no. And she said no because she couldn't. But she said, hey, she said, call this number. Maybe we can get something there. I'm still going to tell you no at the end of the day. But I am still going to take your feelings. I can still validate you in that no. And that's what people have to understand. So I want people to be assertive. You have to be assertive in this world. You have to stand up for yourself. You have to set boundaries. You have to be consequences. Everyone doesn't deserve to breathe your air. Everyone doesn't deserve to be in your space. And we got to start recognizing that and start handling things a little bit different than what we've been doing.
But I just get excited. I think I said this to you a couple of Thursdays ago, and I said, Tracy, I was like, I'm shocked because therapy is showing up in my everyday life. You know, even my mom, she was like, you know, you've changed so much, you've grown, you've evolved. I'm like, well, Mom, what you said? She was like, the shit that you usually rah about. She was like, you're so peaceful now. And so, you know, when people say, I be like, therapy. Because there is a change. I sleep better at night, Tracy.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not irritable like I was. Like, yeah, dumb shit still get on my nerves, but if it ain't directed, it ain't respected. You know
Right.
what I'm saying? It's just
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
feel like I'm just all grown woman now. You know what I'm
Mm-hmm.
saying? And I'm
Mm-hmm.
just looking in the camera and everything is all grown woman. I'm like, like, but I am grateful for the times that you check me. And I think that's what people are scared of therapy about. They don't want that accountability.
Oh no, yeah, most definitely. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. This is what I say, and I'll tell you this. I tell people all the time, therapy is some of the hardest work to do. It forces you to look at yourself, to look at your flaws, to look at everything. It forces you to be vulnerable, to show who you really are, to take that mask off. And some people are not ready. I'm not going to say they're capable because I think everyone's capable of doing this work, but some people are not ready to actually do this type of work. It is hard.
Therapy
It
is
is
one of
hard.
the hardest things,
Mm-hmm.
Tracy, that I've ever done before in my life.
Mm-hmm.
Let me tell you something. There are days, Thursdays, some Thursdays where I just don't feel like it.
Mm-hmm.
But I push myself because I understand that my breakthrough is right there. That
Mm-hmm.
moment that you don't feel like it. That moment that you want, and some days, and however, therapy has also taught me to be true to myself. So some days that I know I don't have the mental capacity to do it, I'll shoot you a text real quick and be like, I can't do it today. I need to rest.
Mm-hmm.
Because sometimes when I get through with therapy, I can't move for hours.
Mm-hmm.
Because I'm processing everything I just, one, revealed about myself, two, figured out about myself. Because when I'm talking in therapy, and I can't speak for everybody else, I'm talking and I'm revealing, I'm also understanding. I'm understanding myself better. I'm understanding why I did some of the things that I did. And then you'll give me a tool and you'll ask a question, and then damn, I got to understand something else.
Mm-hmm.
So after I'm through with therapy, I process everything. Some days I jump back into work. Some days I go right upstairs into my room and just sit there. Because emotionally, you're shedding.
Mm-hmm.
You're
Yes.
shedding. Mentally, you're shedding. Physically, sometimes it even feels physical because the weight is just lifted off of you.
Mm-hmm.
And so I love therapy, but it hurts. It's painful. However, it is so freaking rewarding and it
Yes.
feels so good.
Yes,
Let me
it
tell
does.
y'all something. I feel good. Not only do I look good, I feel good. I feel good because I'm able to get rid of all of that toxicity, the things that have tried to weigh me down, the things that came to steal, kill, and destroy. And I'm able to work through it, to navigate through it.
And
Tracy.
And that is, I tell clients all my time, at the end of the day, what is it? And if people are like, I want to better understand myself, I want to better understand my behaviors, relationship, whatever they're coming for me for, at the end of our journey together, I hope really that they find a level of peace. See, there's just something really special about having that peace, with having to say, I'm okay. I tell people all the time, this, for therapists right now during this pandemic, during everything that's coming off, the social injustice and everything, it's been tough for us. I mean, this has not been a very kind 2 years to therapists either. So, some of us are experiencing burnout, some of us are, because there's so much going on. But I tell people often, I think what keeps me doing this is that I get to see people for I get to really see people. When they walk in my office, then they might come in a couple times and they try to put on their mask and be like, yeah, everything's okay. And then I start saying one word and then they'll bust out crying. I'll be like, there it is. I get to see people in their rawest forms, and that is when they're the most beautifulest to me. And I don't think people understand that. Like, that is it's so beautiful to see people sit here and to see people go through that process and understand themselves and come out. And I always say this, I don't fix anyone. So I don't fix anyone. I simply give people the tools and techniques to fix themselves. At the end of the day, you have to want this. You're fixing yourself. I'm just on this journey with you. But I don't fix anyone. People come to me to learn how to fix themselves, because you can't stay with me forever. Right. At some point, we have to say goodbye, and you got to be able to do this.
I don't know if I'm gonna ever say goodbye. I'm just speaking for me. Other clients and patients can say goodbye. I know I need to stay on the good foot. Let me ask you this, because we talked about this: to meditate or to medicate?
Yes.
It's a question. Now, I have severe anxiety, and I am on medication, and I have been for maybe 12 years now, maybe longer. However, because I'm in therapy and I'm not as stressed and I'm not triggered like I used to be, I haven't really been dealing with anxiety.
I know.
So I've been able to PRN when necessary.
Very good.
I'm not telling nobody to stop their medication. That's
not at all. I'm not a doctor, so I don't do that. Right.
What I'm saying is, I've been on this journey for years. My doctor and I, we've talked. You get what I'm saying?
Yes.
And so what I've done is I taught myself, because I know what an anxiety attack feels like. I know when it's coming, what it feels like. I know my body gets hot. The palm of my hand starts sweating. I can't catch my breath. I know when it's coming. So I've taught myself to medicate, to breathe. Sometimes it could just be as easy as breathing. We don't even breathe enough.
We don't even breathe enough.
And breathing can calm a lot. And people don't realize that. But they'll realize it after this show. So for me, I'm able to catch it, but I have to deal with it because I've been doing the work. She's shedding. She's getting better. You know, hey, no panic attacks. And so you have people who say, well, I don't like to be on medication. And this is what I tell people, Tracy. It took me 3 prescriptions to find the right one for me.
Yes.
Because they all didn't agree with me.
Right.
And so you have to become your biggest advocate. If you are prescribed medication, it's going to be a journey, but you have to find out what works for you.
Right.
Right?
Yes.
And you have to stay in the race. You just can't be like, well, that medicine make me feel, because this is what we say all the time. It made me feel crazy. It had my kids zoned out. So I just don't give it to them no more. But at the end of the day, they still got the illness.
Right. They still do. Right.
So if your kid got a cold, you gonna stop giving them cough medicine?
Right. Right. At the end of the day, they're still suffering. They're still struggling with something. So it's like, I don't believe in that. I do believe, and I think that's what most people don't understand. And it goes kind of saying back to the same thing you say about therapists. We can use that across the line. Every medication is not going to work for you. So you continue to go to your psychiatrist or your prescriber, who's ever prescribing your medication, and you say, hey, look, I'm too zoned out. I don't know what else. Either they down the dosage or they try you on something different. But you gotta advocate for yourself. It's the same thing as a therapist. I tell my clients all the time, we're gonna try this out. If I don't work for you, let me know, because that means I'm not a therapist for you. And we can try. I can refer you to someone else who might be more for you. But
Tracy,
this is really
have you ever had a client that you didn't want to deal with?
Of course.
Did you tell them they have to find another therapist?
No, you know what? I am really not that type of therapist. I push through, because sometimes unless there is, unless there is something about this kind that is triggering me really out that I can't give them the service that I would give to someone else, then I need to step out. Or unless I don't see, the only time I have ever kind of step out is when I feel as if I am not helping. And maybe they need a higher level of care or someone else who specializes in a certain type of therapy, whether it be DBT or MDR, then I kind of refer them out. But I mean, I have had clients that I'm just like, how can I say it? I'm going to be honest. I've never had a client that I have like truly disliked at all. I have had clients that I feel like I wasn't the right therapist for them.
And that makes a difference.
It's a difference, right?
Because to me, I'm just going to hear what I hear. Therapy, finding the right therapist is no different than finding the right mate.
Yes, exactly.
Because I literally share everything with you, Tracy.
We
talk about it all, right? And so it is very important that you feel comfortable. Now, I'm not going to say, like Tracy said, the therapist might not always agree with you. They might tell you're wrong. They might ask you a whole bunch of hard questions, but that doesn't give you the right to punk out or to tap out. Right?
Exactly.
Because there has to be some type of accountability. See, we already got enough friends that's co-signing up shit. That's why our society is the way that it is today, because everybody ain't telling their family and their friends, sit your ass down. Don't go out there shooting. Don't go out there eating. Don't go out there and at some point, especially with us, we don't like to be told what to do.
No.
We don't like to be corrected. And we talk about the murders within our communities. We talk about the dysfunction within our communities. We talk about the drug epidemic and pandemic within our communities, but nobody is holding folk accountable. See, the little drug dealer standing in front of your house selling drugs in front of your house because ain't nobody holding him accountable or her accountable. And so then we try to, well, I'm just going to pray. I'm just going to pray. No. Because at the end of the day, I guarantee you that drug dealer in front of your house, whether it's a male or female, has mama or daddy issues, feels abandoned, feels neglected, probably has an addiction. And we ain't just talking about drugs and alcohol. Sex can be an addiction too. You and doesn't have any self-esteem, doesn't know how to love herself, just doesn't know any of that. And so what we're seeing is the domino effect of broken generations. Every time we see on the news, like in Baltimore, 3 women got shot the other day. In Flint last year, they killed my own girl and her 9-month grandson. And in my mind, I'm saying, what will make a person kill a baby? Just a human being, period, but a baby?
Right.
And in my mind, I know that there has to be some type of mental breakdown.
Yes. And I think that's the one thing that bothers me the most. And I think because I do therapy within Baltimore City. I go into the inner city. I work with people there. So this is something, I'm going to be honest. Most of the time, they're my best clients. I think they're amazing because of the resilience that they have, and some of this. So let's not get this, but I say to some people sometimes, because it makes me so angry when it's like they have all these just type of things that they say about, especially these kids. This and that, and I'm like, let me explain something to you. I got 10-year-olds that have gone through things that will bring a grown man to his knees.
Baby.
Every morning.
Baby. Whoa.
You know what I'm saying?
Say that again.
Oh, yeah. I have 10-year-olds that have been through things that will bring a grown man to his knees. And you're going to sit here? Oh, I get heated. And you don't know their stories? You don't know what they go through. You don't know what they've seen. You don't know the hurt and the pain
trauma
they're in every single day. and you're just going to say these just outlandish, crazy things about them. It is something where, let me explain something to you. No matter what you feel about, those are my kids out there being killed. Those are our kids out there being killed. And see, if I can make sure that they're okay, then I'm making sure that other people are okay. We don't want to have the real conversation about what really needs to be done. We don't want to sit down and have these conversations because they're hard conversations to have. But whether you know it or not, those are our kids out there being killed. It's just not some child in the street. Those are our kids.
Listen, we're going to have a conversation today. And I'm saying this. And I've said this on my Facebook, and I tried to be so politically correct because people are always inboxing me, especially the Christians. Stop cussing. You don't cuss, then you stop cussing. Don't tell me how to say stuff. A lot of times, Tracy, when I say it's generational, what I mean is each generation is leaving trauma unaddressed.
Yes.
And unaddressed trauma is deadly. Whether someone goes out there and kills someone, or someone takes their own life because they can't handle the pressure that comes with the trauma. Now, a person may not commit suicide, but within our, when I say kill themselves, suicide is not the only way to kill yourself. That's what I'm trying to say. People are drinking themselves to death. People are drugging themselves to death. We have so many drug overdoses. We have people within our families that are alcoholics. We have people in our family that does self-hurt. They cut themselves. And so what happens when trauma is unaddressed? It was, and I'm going to use myself for example, because that's the only person I can talk about. I knew that my grandmother had been through some things. She couldn't read or write. Her signature was X. She had 7 or 8 baby daddies and 9 children, right? I knew that she never had a conversation with my mother about the things that she experienced, which it led to my mother not having conversations with me. Now you know what type of conversations my mom had with my sister, because one of the other things I figured out in therapy is my mother's and sister's relationship is none of my business. What my mother and my sister has going on in their relationship is their business. Me and my mother's relationship is none of my sister's business. See, in therapy, you learn how to make business, right? And so I understood that my mother had experienced some things that she was not able to talk to her mother about, nor was she able to talk to her daughter about. Then her daughter began to experience some things that she felt like she couldn't talk to her mother about, that she couldn't talk to her mother about because her mother wasn't prepared to handle the things that her daughter was going through. Although the shit that they all went through was similar, it might not have been exactly like, it was similar, and it showed up in their lives probably the same way. You get what I'm saying? But when it came to her daughter, I said enough was enough. It was over with, and to hear my son say to me, and I had a hard time listening to this, Tracy, you wasn't a good mom to me. When my son, the first time he ever said that to me, I about lost it. Like, what you mean? You ain't never been homeless? You ain't never been hungry? You can't imagine some shit that I had to do to get you what you needed. But when I started doing therapy, I started hearing him. And I had to say, well, wait a minute. Damn. Maybe I'm a perfect mom. So the conversation changed a little bit. And once that conversation between he and I changed, I began to see, because I was defensive. What you mean? You ain't never, and that was my neck. Y'all see my neck. And then I think I said, well, if I ain't never been a good mama to you, I ain't gonna be one. That's probably what I said.
Mm-hmm.
But when I started to heal, I started to hear better. I didn't hear offense. I didn't hear that I wasn't a good mom. I heard his pain.
You heard his pain, yeah.
And because I was able to hear his pain, it changed the way I get to handle him, which has changed the way that he's dealing with the life now. He's not angry as he was. You know, even when we have heated, I just went to my house the other day, but it wasn't me threatening to, deal with him like, I did in the past.
Right.
It was, you know what, Mom, we're disagreeing, so I'm just gonna go. And I looked, I was like, oh, but I understood that most of that rage, most of that pain, most of that hurt was a resemblance of me, although I felt like I did everything that I was supposed to do, although I know that I did. Now I know that I did the best that I knew how to do.
Exactly.
At the time,
exactly.
I was having a baby.
Right. Exactly.
So it was some things that I shouldn't have sown into his life. That I did. There's no way that my son should came in the kitchen and seen me cooking up work. There's no way that my son should see men coming and leaving my house. There's no way. And so now that I'm older, I'm able to acknowledge it and I'm able to deal with it. It has to be dealt with because now she has 3 grandsons. And no, they don't bring babies home, but they make them. And yes. No, I can't teach them how to be men, but I can show them what a whole woman looks like and not a broken ass woman. And so for me, it was just important to do it differently.
Yes.
To stop the dysfunction.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
To have real conversations. To hold
and have some real conversations. Yes.
It's some stuff in my marriage that I probably put up with in the beginning, and now it's for me. Because you evolve. And I say this all the time, that when you evolve, your appetite changes. You might not, the things like I used to club all the time when I was younger. Now that I'm older, I don't club. I may go to an event here and there. But within the marriage, and when I say some things that I allowed that I may not allow now, I'm older. And right. So I don't have the patience to keep dealing with the same shit. You get what I'm saying? I'm not dealing with the same issue over and over and over again. Most so definitely. Set a boundary.
Setting boundaries.
You can set a boundary. Let me say this to everybody. You can set a boundary in every relationship in your life with your parents, yes. With your siblings, with your kids, with your friends, with your coworkers, with the church folk. You have to set boundaries.
And I will say this. I wish most people would set boundaries with family.
Girl, please set boundaries.
That's I tell
people that all the time. I set boundaries. Tracy, let me say this to you. How do you feel about do you feel like therapy has been successful for me? Because yes. People always want to know. Because we're going to close out on this.
This is what I think. I think therapy has been, yes, most definitely. But I think what I like most is, do you feel therapy has been successful for
yes.
you? Okay. And if you say yes, then I have done my job. You understand?
And I think people, because here's the thing, people think once you get into therapy, you don't get tried. I think you get tried more.
Yes,
once you go through therapy, right? And so I've had situations where people done added me on social media to get a response up out of me, and I let that ass on read. Because the old me would have clapped back quick. But the new me is, child, nobody has ever wasted energy. I'm vibrating. And so I know, and that's why I always say therapy is showing up in my life because I can see it. I'm not going to be, I'm not as rah-rah as I used to be.
Mm-hmm.
The other thing, and we're gonna close out on this because my hour is up, y'all. We're gonna close out on this. And I wanted to share and I wanted to encourage you that in therapy, you're still going to have times and moments where you may not make the right decision.
Yes.
Because what I'm saying to you is I ain't arrived. I'm still achieving. I'm still healing. I'm still learning. I'm still growing. And so if you come to a roadblock, like I have so many times, and I told her that this was going to be a raw and real and transparent conversation. So at the beginning of this year, I was involved into a physical altercation. I'm not going to give any of the information, but this altercation had me feeling some kind of way because I never wanted to put my hands on this individual. It was really, really, really hard for me because I held myself accountable. I think out the gate, Tracy, when I called you with it.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, I did it. You know what I'm saying? Like, I don't have an excuse. There's no excuse. That's probably exactly how I said it to you, too. I don't have an excuse. I'm going to hold myself accountable. And so, and with that, I was able to immediately, before you even asked me, what were your triggers? I said, I'm going to tell you what my triggers were, because I already knew what the triggers were. And so I felt really bad, Tracy. Do you remember that?
I do remember that.
I felt so bad about this altercation. I felt so bad that I had to just, and it did something to me internally and mentally. It was actually traumatic for me. I remember saying this to you. Tracy, out of all of the fights I've been in, out of all of the beat downs I done gained, this was traumatic for me. And I remember saying to you, you said, well, what part is it hard for you? And I said, well, an individual was involved that I love with my whole heart. And I don't want them to feel some type of way about me. And you said to me, and I think I was crying like a baby, and you said to me, have a conversation. And I was like, you think that conversation gonna do? Like, it, like, and you was like, had a conversation. So I ended up having a conversation, and the individual was like, we good. That made me feel better. But I said all of that to say this. I am still growing. I am still learning. I am still healing. But what I will tell you is the best thing that you can do for you is get into therapy. Talk to somebody about that PSTD. Talk to somebody about that molestation. Talk to somebody about that abuse. Talk to somebody about that narcissist you just got through dating. Talk to somebody because mental health is real. It's real. In this community, we have to break the stigma. We will not see peace within our communities. We will not. I'm tired of seeing rest in peace. People want to live in peace while they're here. But we will not see any peace within our communities. We don't see transformation within our families until we start having them hard conversations and telling people, I think it'll be best if you go talk to somebody. And stop being there to people. You're not a therapist.
You're not a therapist.
You're their friend. You're their family member. Close out on that, Tracy. I'm going to let you close out on that.
No, I think that's 100% true. And I think what I want people to understand is that when they come into therapy is this. There is a thing that is very important, and I'm sure every therapist will tell you, it's called self-determination. You have the right to decide how you want to live. You have the right to make those choices. When you walk into my office, I'm not telling you any of that. I am helping you think through problems and events and things that are triggering to you. I'm helping you come up with solutions. But let me tell you, if we talk and you say, Ms. Tracy, I really think I'm going to do it this way, great. Let's go. Let's see what happens. If it doesn't work, you know what? We'll start all over again
Mhm.
and we'll see how it goes from there. And everything that happens in our lives, you know, some people will say, I made so many mistakes. And I will say to people, have you learned from them?
Mhm.
And they look at me and they're like, what do you mean? I'm like, have you learned from the mistakes that you have made? And they were like, some will say yes, some will say no. Because if you don't learn, you will continue to do them.
Yes.
See, I tell people all the time, I call them learn. I call them that I have had a teachable moment. I
Mhm.
have done things and I'm like, this was not the right thing. And I learned from it and I didn't do it again. I didn't keep making that same mistake. I learned the lesson. And until you learn the lesson, you're going to keep doing it. So if
Mhm.
you want to break that, if you want to stop that, then you need to come in and say to someone, look, here are my patterns.
Mhm.
These are the things I keep doing.
Mhm.
These are the things I need to break them. Tell me what I need to do.
And
And
that's
that
what we
is
have
what
in my therapy
therapy
session on patterns.
does.
We just started talking
Yep.
about my patterns, and it's some
Yep.
patterns I need to break. Tracy,
Yep.
thank you so much. Is there
You're
anything else
welcome.
for
Thank
the
you for
fans
having
out there?
me.
Because we all over Facebook and YouTube. Is there anything that you want to say to the people out there?
You mean as far as just with I mean, I'm just gonna tell you that I'm a true believer that everyone should be in therapy. You therapists go and see therapists. We stay connected. We are still human. We still have issues, but we are working constantly also. So I would just tell people just to try it. And if you meet one therapist and that one isn't for you, try another one. But I think that the peace and the healing that comes from therapy is like no
Mm.
other. And I think that at the end of the day, when you know who you are and what you want out of life and everything, therapy helps you to get to that point. And I tell people, you can have a horrible 50 years. It doesn't mean the next 30 can't be the most beautiful years of your
Come
life.
on now.
So you have to do the work.
Come on.
Mhm.
And I'm telling y'all, I'm a living witness. Hey. Tracy, I love you.
Thank
I
you.
hope you guys have been blessed by the conversation. Please share this. And put hashtag Mental Health Awareness Month. We're bringing awareness to mental health. It is real. And if we don't deal with it, it's going to eventually deal with us. I love you guys so much for tuning in. Tracy, thank you again, Queen.
Thank
I
you.
am
Thank
so
you.
honored. Thank you for saying yes, because I called Tracy like, can we do my therapy session? Can we do it? She's like, yeah. So thank you so much for saying yes. Next Thursday, I'll be back on the couch with my tissue.
Okay, I will see
Because
you
I got
then.
some shit to talk about. Okay? I love you, Tracy. If
Love you too,
you are
sweetie.
experiencing some type of trauma, talk to somebody. If you feel like you are suicidal, call that 1-800-SUICIDE number. I'm telling you, people want to know what it is that you're going through. Your family may not care, but we care and we love you. Mwah, 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 mwah. Peace and blessings to you. Share this. Whatever you do, stay up and stay blessed. God placed it on my heart, and I must believe. My faith the size of a mustard seed. He was there for me through everything I needed. Even them times when I felt defeated. When everything I overcome. And I'm still a mile way to number one. When it's said and done. Let's talk about it on the Tyra Hill show.